This week on episode 294 of the Cinema Psycho Show, John and I are going straight into the holidays by reviewing the 2014 Christian classic, if you really want to call it that, Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas.
Oh, goody, goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Coyne, my fellow co-host and filmmaker, John Woolscroft.
I like the fudge. I love the hot cocoa. I love the stockings. I love that this entire holiday was stolen by the Catholic Church because they didn't think that the pagans deserved any rights whatsoever. Like, I don't think my neck can go any further.
I don't think it can either. I don't think it can either. That's insane. Right there. Just utterly insane. But we are on episode 294, and we're kicking off the holiday season, right? By giving you one of the worst pieces of shit films that I think John and I have ever seen. And that is the perennial holiday classic, Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas. Also known as what, John? What would you call it?
No, well, this is actually how they adjusted it. When the movie bombed horribly, it became Kirk Cameron above the title Saving Christmas. For some reason, they took out the apostrophe S because this movie did so poorly.
Yeah, it really did so poorly. Although it didn't do poorly for like a Christian fundamentalist movie. Like I think this movie like made $2 million on a budget of like $500,000.
This movie cost $500,000.
This movie cost $500,000, dude.
Okay, they shot it at like Kirk Cameron's sister's house.
I got thoughts on that.
Yeah, but
I got so many. I actually, dude, I have notes, and here's the thing. Peek behind the scenes for everybody here. One, we're doing video, so there's that. Which is
and
cool.
By the way, cheers. Shitter was full.
Let's just get a shot of that. Let's get a shot of that, John. There we go. Shitter was full.
Shitter was full.
Yeah. So I think we're gonna have fun with video. But yeah. So like, what was my train of thought in this?
You said a little bit of background.
Okay, so a little bit of background on this. Like when we do a review of a movie, John and I think take completely different kind of approaches to this. John, I think you mentioned this on a couple times on the show that I tend to not go in with notes. Like when I generally like, I'll watch a movie, I might watch it 2 times, and then I will for the most part kind of shoot from the hip. That's just the way I am. But John, you are by far one of the best note takers I've seen when it comes to reviewing a movie. Like you will come in, I'm saying that as we haven't recorded in person in a while, not since the Erie Horror Fest, but like you will come in with notes on your phone and be like, I've got the whole thing right here. And I don't think people appreciate that. So when I come in with notes, and I literally I don't have a notepad. I have like a notepad app open with my notes on this thing. That's bad. That's telling you how bad it is. And I want to mention how I got the notes too. So we were talking before the show started about AI and how we're trying to do this whole video stuff, and how like the whole thought is, well, why don't we just have AI do the whole podcast, right? Like, you know, just have the AI versions of me and John. And how I got the notes was because I wasn't going to write down all this shit as I'm watching this shitty fucking movie. So I was recording it into Audition, and then I took my recording of me, it's just my train of thought as I'm watching this thing, and I upload it to one of those like AI transcription things, and I asked the AI to transcribe my train of thought, which is a lot of me just going, fuck this guy, fuck this movie, fuck all this. Why is it so horrible? And the notes that spit out for me, I asked them, like, okay, can you give it to me in note form? Can you give me all this in note form? And it's like the podcaster thinks that this movie is disgusting on multiple levels. Like, it made it all nice and pretty sounding, which I'm like, that's clearly the AI can't do our job.
Movie is terrible. I think movie should be destroyed and filmmaker killed. You cannot say that. Boner joke. Ha 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 ha. There's our podcast in a nutshell.
Yes, that is pretty much our podcast in a nutshell.
Oh, and just to say, for
yeah.
Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas, I say we watched this and we're going to talk about it, so you don't have to subject yourself to the torture. But we are doing a community service to let you know of just one of the most horrendous, despicable, lying, deceitful Christmas movies that's ever been made. And I think the lowest rating on Rotten Tomatoes, take with that what you will, a lowest rated Christmas movie of all time. So we did the work. You're welcome. You don't have to watch it. It's
really bad. Like, I mean, it's one, we watched this first years ago.
Yeah.
Years ago. This is a pre-pandemic watch too. But yeah, it was fun when you and I watched it, and our friends, and I think my wife was there too at the time. Yep. We weren't married yet. And I was her first Woolscroft party. Which, you know,
that poor woman.
Yeah.
You already knew what you were getting into.
Yeah. But, you know, watching it with a group is a much better experience than watching this movie by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Would you agree?
Watching it with a group in a party setting, having a couple of cocktails, having like a good time, all trashing it together and slapping high fives when we really stick it to Kirk Cameron. Yeah, this time around, I watched it by myself with headphones on, completely sober, and I was just in hell. I mean, this is really bad. I mean, it is funny bad.
You're just in hell.
It is funny bad, which, you know, can be its own eureka, but not 79 minutes of this, you know, like awful bad. Which, yeah, nice job, Kirk. You know, between the dance party and your intro at the beginning and your outtakes during the credits, you really just got this to feature length, you scoundrel.
That's a good word, scoundrel.
Yeah.
I think that's what I would call him too. So I think we should dive into this thing to a point, you know, to a point. I want to preface this by saying, one, we're going to be talking about a lot of religious stuff, a lot of right wing and Republican stuff in there too.
And that's not our fault. That's the movie.
That's right. It's the movie's fault. Now I'm bringing this up because in the past, we've had some people who have taken to, say, our ratings and reviews and have said some nasty things about us and our political views. That's fine. But for us to accurately talk about this gigantic turd of a movie, we have to talk a little bit about the hypocrisy that's presented to us of Christianity in the film. Would you agree?
I mean, not to jump to the end because we will get back to it, but Kirk basically admits how he did the magic trick and how he admits that everything he just made it up. And
Thank
that we
you.
can start telling up fake stories to our kids because like there's maybe holes in the Bible and Christmas, and just lie to your kids. But yeah, no,
I just want to tell the audience, like, one, I doubt that we're going to get a GOP lover Christian person coming on who sees the title of this is going to be something like, what the fuck did I just watch again? Because that seems to be a good title. But I doubt I'm going to get anyone who says, you know, I knew what I was surprised by the review of this thing. Okay. I just want to preface that. I could see some people hate watching. Well,
But-
that's fine. I had to hate watch while watching, Saving Christmas. So there you go. If I have to suffer through it, then you have to suffer through my review. But I guess I want to point that out. And first of all, I'll give you a peek behind the camera again. See what we're doing? We're doing video. I am not a religious person by any stretch of the imagination. For our audio only audience, John literally just dropped the microphone. But I am not a religious person at all. So I am probably not the target for Saving Christmas. Although I guess you could say that I am kind of the target because Kirk Cameron targets me and people like me directly in the film. But I am not a religious person. I am not a Christian at all. If you want to put a label on it, I'm mostly agnostic to atheist for the most part. I don't know what the fuck happens when we die. I don't really care. I focus on the here and now and living here and now. That's just me. If you are a Christian, great. I have no problems with anyone's religion. I don't even have a problem with people who are born again, like Kirk Cameron. What I have a problem with, and we're going to get to what I think the whole crux of this movie is shaming and pushing dogma on people for how they celebrate the holidays.
Yeah, recontextualizing history as
Yes.
well to fit your narrative. I mean, this is Orwellian propaganda at its finest. And to just piggyback on you, I guess I found out that I am a subtype. I'm an agnostic atheist.
Okay, so you're me. You're me.
Yeah. But apparently somebody who does not believe in a god but can't prove there is no god or anything that happens afterwards. That's why I'm an agnostic atheist.
Totally. That's same thing.
Yeah. And I feel that if some people just tuned into this for the first time, we've now lost maybe 20% of the viewers, but that's fine. You don't have to
worry. Don't worry. We will get to dick and fart jokes.
Yeah.
Because there are aplenty for this one.
And and I'm with you, Brian. I don't care as long as you're not hurting people or pushing it on other people or using it as some kind of incendiary weapon. Believe what you want to believe as long as it's not overly destructive in some way or another. If you're in some religious cult and you're all supposed to kill yourselves or something, for some guy, then I'm against that. But otherwise, you do you. I'm fine with it. Because it helps a lot of people.
It does. I can see someone saying these guys just hate Jesus. It's I don't have an opinion. That's it. I got no opinion. I don't care.
Well, Brian, how can I hate a guy who never existed?
Whoa. Whoa. Coming out the gate. That's because we have our disclaimer already. That's
yeah, there's the hate message.
There's the hate message. But this movie. Okay, because we're gonna get to this. We're gonna dive into this thing. Okay. This movie, first of all, funded by the Sterling University of Liberty University, known for such things as Jerry Falwell Jr. and something with a pool boy. If my memory serves me correctly.
Are you saying there's some kind of scandal involved? With this private religious institution?
Yes, I am saying that. So it's funded. This movie was funded by Liberty University and probably Kirk Cameron. That's why he's executive producer on this thing. And it opens up.
He did not write or direct.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, because he doesn't have any talent. So other than being borderline charismatic. And can I just give a little bit of background?
Sure.
Kirk Cameron, for our younger audience, was the star of an 80s/90s show called Growing Pains. And at the time, he was either atheist or agnostic. And I don't know if he hit rock bottom or what happened to him. Or if he just found God just organically. I don't know his entire story, but he was born again or born, I guess, maybe the first time, however you want to describe it. And he became zealot level of Christian, like where he was all in. So he was not always this way, but whatever happened to him where he became, baptized again in the church, he just was like, I'm all in as a warrior of God. So yeah, I imagine that he has the charisma to host this special, but yeah, he's not smart or clever enough to write or direct it. So
what's interesting too, John, and I'm glad you brought up about Growing Pains, is that first of all, again, I don't care if he becomes born again. What happens is what you do with it, what your actions are. And from doing some research, apparently he is partially responsible for like Growing Pains being canceled. Did you hear about that?
No, but I can understand that he probably did something crazy, right?
Well, no, what happened was that when he became born again, he didn't like the fact that Mike Seaver, his character, he wanted Mike Seaver to be more mature and more of an adult rather than like the teen heartthrob he was. So he started like changing scripts and like, yeah. So, and obviously this is like the tail end of this series, the early 90s, which honestly, Growing Pains was on its way out to begin with.
Step by step replaced.
It was step by step, and it was Family Matters, man. We were all about the Urkel then. But yeah, like that's partially because of his, religion, which, I mean, I understand, like, if you feel that way, if you feel like you don't like that, that's fine. And that only really affects him personally. But somehow along the way, he transformed into this like Jesus loving monster.
A zealot. Yeah.
A zealot. Yes.
And that's the problem. I'm like, if you want to be a Christian, Kirk, go fucking nuts, but don't lie or manipulate people or force people into believing what you believe. I have heard people, it's like, oh, John, you're an atheist. You want everybody not to believe in God. I'm like, I don't give a shit what anybody believes or doesn't believe. That's not, my decisions are purely for me, not for anyone else. I don't care what anybody else does, as long as they're not hurting anybody. But yeah, he's one of those people that is a real pusher of his faith. And this movie, as I said, is a nice Orwellian propaganda piece to reimagine all the capitalistic ends of Christmas to make it a part of religious ends, because, well, at the end of the day, you know what Kirk Cameron is? He's a Christian, he's a liar, and he's rich as fuck. So he needs to justify the capitalistic end of his Christianity. And the best way to do that is put capitalism in the Bible. And that's exactly what this special does.
Thank you for saying that. Now with that, because there's a lot to unpack there. With that, I want to start this thing by talking about the opener to this movie. So the opener is Kirk Cameron surrounded by an orgasm level amount of Christmas shit just everywhere.
And now a message from the Fuhrer.
Oh my God. Yeah, it is very much like that. It's just Kirk Cameron sitting by a fireside doing a fireside chat. And it's one of the most unsettling moments in the movie. Like, there's a lot of unsettling moments in this film, but I really think the first one is the most unsettling, because you've got Kirk Cameron surrounded by all this Christian, and Christmas stuff, all this Christmas stuff. And it's a very wholesome type of setup. And he's talking about how much he loves Christmas so much. And at first you're like, okay, this isn't so bad. I get it. Whatever. You like Christmas. Good for you. But he takes a sip of hot cocoa. Okay.
You mean he takes a sip of air?
Well, yeah. He takes a sip of air. He takes a sip of the hot cocoa, and then it turns into, yes, John, a message from Der Fuhrer. Because he just goes off on everything. He goes off saying, it's like, well, you know what? You know that there's those people who want to put a wet blanket all over Christmas. They want to tell you that the way you celebrate it's wrong. And, you know, then there's people over here who try to tell you that Christmas really isn't about Jesus. Then you have people over here who are trying to tell you that there are other cultures that maybe have those traditions before Christianity.
Ew, other cultures. Ew.
Yeah, other cultures. Yeah, it's really unsettling and really disturbing.
Well, let's break down what he said. Like, you know, it's like, oh, some people want to tell you to tone it down with the caroling, or, you know, or the messages, or where you put your religious iconography. It's like, yeah, let's compare that to a party. If a party is in a neighborhood and it's going at 4:38 in the morning with music blaring at the same decibels it did at 8 o'clock, people are going to call the police because, you know what? Maybe it's time to tone it down.
Yeah.
Maybe just give people their rights and space. And then some people being like, you know, Christmas is more about capitalism. Let me just say this right now, and I know I'm going to piss off a lot of the religious listeners, is that if you took capitalism out of Christmas, our entire culture of our American culture would collapse. If you took Jesus out of it, nothing would change.
That's a TikTok right there. Oh my God. Well, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
You're right, because it's worth pointing out that Christmas as it is now in modern time in 2023 is a about commercialism, at least to some degree. I think a large chunk of it is, you know. I mean, Jesus Christ, you have like Black Friday, which is now its own holiday in essence, where what do you do on Black Friday? You go out and you buy shit.
Yeah, Brian,
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving is Christmas part 1.
Yes, that is right.
Yeah. And, you know, like, that's what I grew up with. I grew up with what I now deem capitalist Christmas because, you know, neither of my parents, like, they had both separated from their religious upbringings. I never went to church, never went to Sunday school, never went to anything. Was never a part of any affiliation. So when Christmas came around, it was the holiday of trees and cookies and ham and gifts.
Same here.
That's what Christmas was. It was capitalist Christmas.
Well, I mean, for me, John, like my I don't want to say necessarily culture, but I guess you could say my lineage is Jewish, and my dad was Catholic and my mom's Jewish, and honestly, we never celebrated Hanukkah because I'm sorry, and this is going to sound, you know, terrible, but Hanukkah's boring compared to Christmas. I'm sorry, it is.
Lewis Black, in a special called "Surviving the Holidays."
I think I saw that one.
He put it as like it's basically a holiday as a back to school shopping. Like day 1, pencil; day 2, eraser.
Well, like growing up, we had these friends who were also Jewish. They were in our neighborhood, and where we lived, there were not a lot of Jewish people. But I remember one time we went over to their house, and they brought out like the gelt, which is just terrible chocolate golden coins, and that's the thing. And how there's a game with the dreidel that you're supposed to do, and I'm like thinking back to this, I'm like, this is gambling. Like the game is about spinning the dreidel, and apparently you land on a certain thing, and then you get a certain amount of again, don't know anything. Our friend Grant would he had called me a terrible Jew, but he's right. I don't get it. I don't have any association with it. My memories are associated with capitalist Christmas, as you call it. Yeah. So when I hear Kirk Cameron, douchebag McGee, talking about how there are those people that are, I guess, infringing on his ability to celebrate Christmas the way he wants, which not really true. Everything he said in that whole thing, like the back half of it, is offensive to the nth degree. And that's why I say it's like the most disturbing scene in this movie. And there's a lot of disturbing scenes in this movie, is that he actually believes all of this. At least all of it.
Oh, you drink the entire glass of Kool-Aid or none at all. You know?
Oh, no, but he's gobbled it up. And he looks insane. Like, he looks like an insane, crazy person who is hopped up on cocoa. Now, he says one thing in this monologue, if you will, that I thought was hilarious. He talks about how he's like, what are they going to say next? That cocoa's bad for you? I got news for you. It is.
Yeah.
It's sugar.
Yeah, chocolate and sugar is not good for you, and you should not drink the nipple pus of another animal.
Yeah, because what? Isn't that in the Bible, John? About drinking
probably.
nipple pus?
I don't know. I never read that
I don't
book.
fucking know.
But you know, the thing is, we're the only creature that drinks nipple pus of another animal. You know, no other creature does that.
No, only us.
I really only ever use milk for cooking purposes. I don't really drink it on a daily basis. Like, delicious cow nipple pus. I don't know why I'm drinking this, but what it is. But
yeah, I don't. I use it for cereal, and that's about it. And cooking, yeah, that's that too. Yeah. But what I find hilarious is that he says that, which is like, yeah, I'm sorry, hot cocoa is bad for you. Now, if you drink it every once in a while, okay, fine, in moderation.
Yeah.
But
in moderation.
Yeah. So like that I get, but then he says like, they're gonna say it's invented by the Druids. That part pissed me off. That single line right there, that he's saying that hot cocoa was invented by the Druids. Now, history lesson for the audience here. Cocoa was invented by Mesoamericans, the Inca, the Maya, not invented by the Druids. Okay? What gets me about this point is that the Mesoamericans, the Inca and Maya, were conquered and butchered and enslaved by conquistadors, conquering their lands in whose name? The church. Like, do you get why I was so pissed off about that, John?
I completely understand, but you know, the whole point of this special, as we'll get into the details of it, is for Kirk Cameron trying to reclaim all of the things, and they're more than the religious stuff that is non-religious, and take that and rework it to make it religious in the same way that the church has done for years and years and years. Because I've done my homework, not for this episode necessarily, but just because I'm a nerd, on how Christmas has been, the idea of Christmas, an end of year celebration, has been done by many, many different cultures over many, many different, you know, experiences and times, and most of them were pagan based, and the church came and sucked it all up and re-spit it out in a religious context. And that is what Kirk is trying to do in this special, the way that, you know, his forefathers did hundreds or thousands of years ago. You know, it's the same shit, different day, different idiot.
Very true. Very, very true. Yeah, but that's the opening scene. Then we get into the title credits, which, as someone who animates stuff for a living and teaches people how to animate stuff, it was one of the most piss poor examples of animation I've ever seen. One, you can see that there are clearly things that have been recycled. Like there are clearly shots and sequences recycled over and over again. Like they looped it and they're just like, okay, if this character does the same action over and over again, we can just loop that and then just bring it in and just no one will know any better.
It's like Tom and Jerry running through the hall and they just use the same cycle of frames over and over again.
Yes. And then the other thing too is that apparently the only sanctioned music that God and Jesus really only like is ska from 1998. I don't know why.
Trumpets,
Well, no, just the ska music just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit with this movie. There's a lot of things that don't fit with this movie, but the ska music, it's just off-putting after you just give me the doom and gloom, Sermon on the Mount Coco, that sort of thing.
Well, this movie has no idea how to begin or end itself, because the beginning of the movie has some production logos, and then it's Der Fuhrer, Kirk sitting
Der Dreamy Fuhrer. Yeah. That's who he is. Der Dreamy Fuhrer.
Ooh. But the thing is, like, he's doing a set, like, it's clear that he's improving. Like, I think he had a couple of bullet points, but it's clear that he's just making it up as he goes. But the weird thing is he's pausing like has a live audience that's like laughing or responding, because it's so awkward. And I apologize for you, dear audio listeners, but he'll do something like this. I love the fudge. I love the cocoa. And it's like, why did you just do 7 seconds of silence? What were you trying to do? You're not playing to a live audience. But yeah, Brian, you're right. And then it goes into the opening credits, and then it goes into a horrific nightmare scene of what looks like human Krampus, like walking through the fucking wilderness, while the snow is deadly. And then it just cuts to Kirk Cameron's house and his brother, like, Christian White Man, which is his name, not the man part, but Christian White, like walking into his house, and then like I think like another little sequence. And it's
there's so much you're missing, John.
It's just like what is this? Where is this movie going? There's no structure to any of this.
Well, first of all, the plot is non-existent. Like from a filmmaking standpoint, because obviously we're filmmakers, we can talk about this sort of thing. From a filmmaking standpoint, there is no plot. It's a series of sequences. That's all it is. Not really strung together by anything. And honestly, like we talked a bit about that with Dutch, but the thing is that Dutch had this thing called character development. And you kind of sort of care about the characters to a degree.
Right. Like there was everything still revolved around Dutch and the little boy.
Yeah.
There was a narrative thread there that continued their journeys.
Yes.
Like, no, Kirk Cameron, like, and we'll get to it, just sitting in a car with Christian White Man. And he's just like,
I love that.
He's like, let me tell you a little story. It's almost like a, like the world's worst, most despicable version of Creepshow, where it's just like all these separate stories just pieced together.
Oh, I'm glad you bring it up. So I want to chew on this a bit. Okay.
Yeah.
So the Christmas party, I want to start off with that. Biggest Christmas party in a house that clearly is either Kirk Cameron's or someone from Liberty University's house.
Or one of his sisters. Yeah.
Or one of his sisters.
Yeah, he's so relatable, Kirk Cameron. Look at his gigantic fucking mansion.
He's got a gigantic mansion. He's got his own Santa Claus. He's got, 50 Christmas trees and a mishmash of a lot of white people and a smattering of African Americans, just to say that he's not too much of a racist, even though give the movie time. Now, I was listening to another podcast about this movie just because I was like, I got to hear what other people are thinking. And the Dead Horse podcast, I'm calling them out because they perfectly encapsulated the setup for this thing. They said in their episode about this that it's referred to as the house that is used in Brazzers productions.
Yep.
And
some Brazzer producers like Giant House.
Yes. I'm like,
they filmed
you hit a nail on the head.
He burns the sheets.
It's like, I think they said in their episode that something to the effect of like, Kirk got it the weekend that Brazzers wasn't using it.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
It sounds about right. Yeah. Yeah. They really did a
But
bang up job cleaning it up.
Mom.
Oh shit. So that's their setup. We're at this gigantic Christmas party, and let's start talking about our different characters, because I there's no plot, so really all we have to really go on are just the characters.
This is pretty easy. So we have Kirk Cameron, the psychopath.
I would say he's a cocoa-fueled joygasm in human form.
Yeah. We have his sister, who's not Candace Cameron.
It is his actual sister.
His other sister.
His other sister. Now, when I saw her, and she looked like she loves Christmas so much that it's killing her. Like, you remember that in Star Wars Episode 2, when everyone saw Palpatine, and like you get out of the theater and you're like, why does Palpatine look like haggard and old and bloodshot eyes? And there's theories about there that like he's really into the dark side. So like the dark side is turning his outside face, it looking gross. And there's a theory out there that what Palpatine looks like in Episode 3 is what he really looks like the whole gross reptile face. So I'm like, is the Christmas spirit killing Kirk Cameron's sister? Is that what's happening? Because she looks rough. She looks like she's been through some shit.
It's the three spirits visit her every night, but they don't give her a chance for redemption.
No.
They just torture her. Yeah.
Just every night they just show up. They're just like, the ghost of Christmas past. Would you let me get some fucking sleep? Like every night they show up. But she just looks like she's just had it. And of course, Kirk, being the loving brother, is like, is Christian White giving you problems? You want me to beat him up? I'm like, dude, you just offering violence for the sake of violence?
Take him out back and break his legs. I mean, I think he's being coquettish, but still. But yeah,
coquettish.
His brother-in-law, who is apparently a director of
he's the director
music videos.
Yes. Yeah. He's the director of the movie.
Yeah, and he's the director of the movie. Yeah, Christian White man. Like he's a little grumpy around the holidays. And then there are two other main characters that is like
I do want to mention something. I do want to mention something about Christian White man.
Yeah.
I love the fact that, and I think I said this when we were at your house and we did the watch, that they picked a person who looks like the proverbial intellectual with the glasses and, clearly like he's a smart guy, so that we can look at him and go like, well, of course he's the one who's going to be questioning Jesus and Christmas.
I also think it's anti-Semitic because the man is Jewish.
Yeah.
And I think that they went, let's cast him because he looks like one of them. So the audience will have an easier time believing it.
It's just...
And they all winked at each other like none of us said it. Wink, wink.
Yeah. Well, that's what this movie has, is a lot of wink, wink, not really saying it stuff, which just kind of screams to me that this was a pre-Trump movie, because nowadays it would be not so much wink, wink. It'd be like, yes, that's 100% what we're saying. But you were saying about the other two characters that are also kind of stereotypes.
Black man and white man.
Black man and conspiracy white man.
Yeah. These guys who are just
DeAndre is the black man.
Yeah, they're both here to just give us a moment away from Kirk and his brother-in-law in the car.
Yes,
like when we need a comic reprieve, and we'll get to their bizarre comic reprieve because it almost seems like they're gaslighting us, but we'll get there.
The whole movie's a gaslighting film. Like that's 100% what this whole thing is. But yeah, like, DeAndre is, I mean, I will call it what it is. I think he's the most racist depiction of an African-American in modern cinema.
Well, yeah, it's written by a bunch of like white born again Christians who are like, this is what a cool hip black guy.
Well, it's just like, he just comes off like a cartoon character, and that's the problem with it. It bleeds that, yes, John, this is written by white men
who have no understanding of what it is to be black person in any way, shape, or form.
No.
But But yeah, those are our characters.
Yeah.
And we have Christian Whitebread, who's like, who was a little grumpy. It's a little grumpy around the holidays, to the point
Which
where,
is
like,
fine.
yeah, but to the point where his wife is like, Kirk Cameron's sister is like basically ready to divorce him because he's a little grumpy around the holidays.
Oh, she's like done. She's like totally done with him. She's like, he just doesn't have the Christmas spirit. And so I'm thinking about, filing papers on January 1st.
Yeah, it's like, because, he won't just turn around come January when the holidays aren't a thing. But Kirk's like, let me talk to the motherfucker. And his Christian way. And then he finds him like sitting in the car, like, I really do think Christian was trying to like kill himself from like, all the fumes from a car, but he didn't realize that outside doesn't work. But like, you need to go in the garage.
If you roll up all the windows and you're outside, it doesn't work.
Like, buddy, it's not going to do it. But Kirk jumps in the car and he goes, hey, guy, what's the matter, bud?
Yeah.
You don't like the cuckoo? Because I love the cuckoo. You don't like the stocking. You don't like the mistletoe. What's the matter with you? And basically he goes, oh, the holidays are all fucked. And I'm going to tell you in 3 segments why the holidays are fucked. And then Kirk sits there with a shit-eating, like, grin on his face. Like he just stole 100 candy bars and nobody knows.
Oh, his facial reactions in this movie are just god-awful.
And then he just takes this guy's legitimate, I mean, if you give a fuck, as legitimate arguments and just like takes a diarrhea dump on his face with the most Orwellian double speak, lying, manipulative, historical construction that I've ever seen in my life for 3 separate tales.
Very true. Very true. The thing is, and you didn't mention this before he gets to the car, is that when they show Christian white man, you've got voiceover, which voiceover is present throughout this entire movie. But you've got Kirk Cameron describing Christian white man, and the way they describe him is he looks at, they're cutting the description of Christian with music that I would say belongs in a horror movie, as he's looking at children, gathering of food, presents, Christmas tree. And it's like this weird like sequence of dun, dun, dun. And he's looking at children. I'm like, this is just off-putting on so many levels. But yeah, he leads him to the car, which, yes, I've called the car scenes the gaslighting bonanza. Because, yeah, John, like, he brings up some legitimate reasons. And what are some of these reasons? One, commercialism in Christmas. Not wrong.
Christmas trees, Santa Claus. Yeah.
Yeah. That Christmas has its roots not necessarily in the church, but in actual pagan beliefs, which is true.
Yeah.
Crazy concept there. And what gets me about this first car scene is, yes, that he takes a diarrhea dump, but he does it in the most unfeeling way possible. Like, I don't think people understand. The holidays are rough as fuck on people. I really believe that the holidays are hard because everyone has this expectation of what you should be like during the holidays, right?
They're fun, but they're unbelievably stressful at the same time.
It's unbelievably stressful. If you have kids, it's doubly stressful, both financially and also just in your own sanity. Okay. But if you don't have kids, you're surrounded by all this. You're told yourself that you have to be happy and joyful and all this stuff all the time. Why aren't you like all this stuff about Christmas? And it's exhausting. It's exhausting to the point where, honestly, by the time you get to January 1st, you're just done. But some people, I think, really struggle with it. And like when looking at Christian white man, I'm looking at him and going like, wow, maybe he's just like dealing with a lot of shit. Maybe it's just a really stressful time. Maybe there's stuff going on at work. Maybe there's stuff in his relationship that there's problems with. Maybe there's something else other than he doesn't have the fucking Christmas spirit. And negating all that and just saying it's your fault is the worst advice you could give to anyone who's going through that.
Well, just on top of everything else, like, his wife is throwing the biggest Christmas party I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know, maybe he should have just went to her like in bed and like put down his copy of whatever Bill O'Reilly's most recent novel is and just said, hey, honey, maybe we won't do the gigantic party this year because it'll be one stress off of our backs. And maybe I can enjoy the holidays more, but no. He couldn't do that.
Well, you got to understand, like, unfortunately for his wife, his wife has been visited by the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future every night since Thanksgiving, which is why she has to do the party. It's an offering to them so that she gets some sleep. But I just felt that the first car scene, like, yeah, instead of saying like, hey, buddy, like, it's okay. You don't have to be 100% on for Christmas. It's okay to feel down about it because there is a lot of pressure on you. Instead of doing that, we get the very destructive, no, it's your fault. You're wrong.
Yeah, and you have to constantly be there for your wife. You're never allowed to have a down moment yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I'm just very quickly gonna break down all three segments.
Yeah, go ahead.
The first one, I can't even remember what the brother is even pissed about. Oh no, he's pissed about the snow globe being put in the corner with the nativity scene. And Kirk Cameron's like, well, I'm sure that automatically your favorite thing that is in your holiday decorations is the nativity scene. You probably fucking jerk off all over it every fucking night. That's how much you love the baby J,
Baby J.
It's basically Noah's Ark because the baby J is just floating in your protein, but I'm like, okay, well, that's a pull to something. No pun intended. But but he's like, let's talk about the manger and how the manger was like a feeding trough and the people wanted to kill the baby Jesus, which is only in the Bible, by the way. There's no historical record of any soldiers trying to kill the baby Jesus, and the whole nutcracker thing being symbols for the soldiers that wanted to kill baby Jesus. It's that only ever appears in the Bible, and it's complete and total utter bullshit. But so is Jesus. But anyways,
that's how you really feel, John.
But and he just goes into this bizarre double speak thing about swaddling Claus and the spices of birth being the spices of death. And by the time he's done talking, at least I could make sense of his second and third message. But by the time he gets done, Christian's like, wow, I never saw the swaddling cloth that way. And all I could think is, what the fuck did he say? What did he say? I don't understand a word of what he just fucking said. Explaining away the snow globe. But let's move on. So we
No, I gotta hit you about this one.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, the first segment, if you will, basically lays out Kirk's manipulation throughout every single one of these segments. You say he double speaks. I say he twists. Probably, I would say, again, I don't read the Bible, so I don't know. But he takes like one line from the Bible or one aspect from the Bible and twists it in a way so that it fits what he personally believes. Not what Christians believe, but what he believes that there is some sort of reverence to the swaddling cloth, which again, no one knows if there was a swaddling cloth. I don't know. And he's putting importance on it. So because he's putting importance on it, he feels that Christians should put importance on it because it's what he believes. So he does this through the entire movie, takes an aspect he personally likes and twists it to fit his personal belief. It's manipulation and yes, doublespeak 101, and it's 100% gaslighting. But yeah, the swaddling cloth is bullshit. Don't know why he cares so much about that. But yes, Sean, go on to the second one, which, man, the second one, if you want to see towers of shit and bullshit in one sequence, the second one has it in spades.
Oh, yeah. And I do believe that if you can speak intellectually and without stuttering long enough, people will believe whatever bullshit you say. And Kirk Cameron's like, if you look at the history of this and you look at it, you can't help but believe that if you look at the Bible and Genesis, that Santa Claus was always Jesus Christ. He just was in his butt and then he pooped him out, and then he became the Holy Ghost, but who was the poopy ghost. And it's just like, as long as you don't stutter, people go, oh, I never thought of it that way. And that's Kirk Cameron. But yeah, let's go to round two. So round two is Christmas trees. Christian Wonder Bread is he's all PO'd about a Christmas tree, because even though he's got mangers and Jesus iconography all over his fucking house, he's mad that there are presents under a tree, and he goes,
damn it, damn those presents,
this is pagan stuff, which it is. But Kirk goes, fuck face, let me tell you something. And he starts to talk about Genesis, and he says that when Adam took the apple from the tree, he could not put it back because he ate it. And I thought, well, what if he put his poopies on the tree? Because the apple's probably the only thing he ate. And I was like, he could put his poopies on there and be like, sorry, G. And God could be like, oakley dokley. But no, not gonna have that.
I'm sorry, it's so fucking funny. Oakley dokley. It's a holy oakley dokley.
But so he's like, I have to literally put myself on the tree, but I can't do that because I'm Adam and I don't know what the fuck's going on. I just woke up in this garden and I got like a bitch and some food. And so apparently it was up to Jeebus, who, like, how could he have known about Adam and Eve? But nevertheless, it was up to Jesus to put himself on the tree, which a cross, I guess, is just pieces of wood from a tree. So Jesus is the apple back on the tree when he was brutally tortured. And so we should celebrate Jesus being brutally tortured as an apple by buying Christmas trees and then putting apples and lights on them. Ta-da. No further questions.
I've gone cross-eyed.
Yeah. No further questions allowed.
No further questions. Yeah, he literally says at the end of that, like, when you see a Christmas tree lot, you're really seeing a field of crosses. I'm like, no, I see a Christmas tree lot.
I mean, a Christmas tree is a thing full of like lights and ornaments. Is like such a thing of happiness. Like, could you imagine just putting a Christmas tree up in your house and go, can you imagine the torture Jesus went through?
That's like thinking like, yes, a Christmas tree lot is really just a field of electric chairs.
Yeah.
Or a field of syringes.
I mean, you would think that the best thing you could do is burn a Christmas tree and be like, I'm sorry, Jesus.
Well, I guess I would ask the question then, what happens then when I take my Christmas tree and throw it in the yard when I'm done?
On the one day the garbage picks it up.
Yeah, yeah. What does that mean? That I'm desecrating the cross because I've thrown the Christmas tree on the sidewalk for the holy garbage truck to pick it up, or what? Like, I don't know about you, but like when I was growing up as a kid, our Christmas trees all got thrown into our wooded part of our backyard. So like you'd walk into your backyard one day in the wooded part and you'd be like, yes, Christmas tree 1995 right there. Does that mean that I have a cemetery filled with the holy crosses in my old backyard.
It's like the Killing Fields, that movie, but just with like Jesus trees.
Yeah.
But
I'm not buying it.
moving on.
Oh, moving on.
Round 3.
I think this one might be my favorite. This one's, I think, my favorite.
And this one actually does have a lot of accurate history, because the Santa Claus in the abstract, because a lot of our culture has been based on the fact that we won the Revolutionary War and we had no religions in this country. And over time, we have brought many different cultures, that either religious or not, different countries into the United States and put them into a big old melting pot that we're supposed to be. That is a representation of our holidays, not just for Christmas, but Halloween or what have you, Thanksgiving. But we took the idea of Santa Claus from Saint Nicholas, who was a religious man from Turkey. And yes, there was a question, and I don't understand why Kirk Cameron didn't wonder about this or question this, that there was a question about whether or not Jesus Christ was actually the Son of God. It was debated in the church, but there were men like Saint Nicholas who literally beat the shit out of people who questioned his holiness. And he doesn't question the fact that, was Jesus actually a holy figure and more than a martyr? Or was it just that there was some bully who went around beating the piss out of people who second guessed that idea in the first place? But also, let's not gloss over the fact that Saint Nicholas was a violent sociopath, and that both Kirk Cameron and Christian Wonderbread says this guy kicks ass, because there are people that questioned Christianity or Jesus as the savior, and he beat the living piss out of them. What a dude.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, that whole legend that Kirk mentions, and I say a legend because if you do the most basic of Wikipedia searches, as I did, because I'm not a religious scholar, never want to be, but if you do the most basic religious search in Wikipedia, you will find that it's a very unsettled territory whether that thing actually happened, whether he really did beat the fuck out of a person who happened to just question. First of all, that legend that Kirk mentions is over 1,000 years old after Nicholas's death. That's like me thinking up of someone 1,000 years ago and just saying, like, I'm going to make up a story about them. Someone 1,000 years ago. This is all before the internet. This is all before people really knew how to write in mass. And read in mass. So like the validity of this argument is in question. And if you really want to believe that, great. It's presented in a way where Santa Claus is a homicidal maniac.
Mm-hmm.
And Kirk Cameron's all for that homicidal maniac. He is like, that's his guy. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he idolizes him. And you can tell that he idolizes this wily-eyed, dirty, crazy person that's just beating the fuck out of somebody who happens to, just John, you mentioned it, question the argument of whether Jesus really is a real person and whether the church should be about that.
Kirk Cameron,
answering question with violence, basically.
Yeah, Kirk Cameron seems like the kind of guy who like jacks off to like Death Wish movies. Where like what's his face is just killing everybody.
Charles Bronson,
yeah.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh fuck, and just fucking jizzes tinsel. But
he jizzes tinsel.
But there is a story connected to St. Nicholas where
Yeah.
there was a father who had no choice but to sell his daughters off into prostitution. He had no other choice. Like, he had no other means to survive. And they had a house that had open columns in it. And apparently St. Nicholas stood outside the house, and the girls had their stockings that they wore over the chimney to dry overnight. And he was throwing coins, gold coins, into the house, and they landed in the stockings that they had over the fireplace to stay dry. And the girls woke up and they saw all the gold coins, and the father said, "Wow, somebody's generosity has given to our family that now we don't have to sell you into prostitution." And that is 150% a fucking made up story. But
I was gonna say that feels horrible.
yeah, but it's a piece of legend to give to Saint Nicholas around the holidays, and it's the birth of what we commonly explain away our stockings that we hung by the chimney with care. So the idea that, like, that is obviously a lie is that the thing that you bring up, Brian, is that I'm sure the whole thing about him beating the ever living piss out of some guy at a bar is a fucking lie as well. Like,
yeah, I mean, I gotta think that you cannot trust any sort of story that is 1,000 years old. That's about someone I'm sorry. Like, it didn't become a prominent thing until 1,000 years after his death. 1,000 years. So, and this is, again, before the internet. This is, again, before even Gutenberg and the printing press. This is a myth. And it's a popular myth. And, you know, I guess if you want your Santa Claus to be a homicidal maniac, great. But it's not the reality. The reality is honestly, Santa Claus, you know, yeah, Santa Claus is pulled from St. Nicholas, but he's also pulled from a lot of pagan mythology too.
yes,
A lot of pagan mythology.
especially the American Santa Claus is pulled from many different cultures,
Yes.
because we're a melting pot of many different people to explain away the St. Nicholas. And I'm sorry to tell all of you if this is going to be upsetting to you, but the modern day Santa Claus that you know, the 6 foot tall guy with the beard and the red suit, is Coca-Cola.
Yes. I was hoping you were going to bring that up, but it is 100% Coca-Cola.
Yeah, before Coca-Cola came around, he was actually like a pixie. That's how he fit down.
Yeah,
the
it was an
chimney.
elf pixie type thing.
Yeah, he was like 2 feet tall at the most. That's how he fit down the chimney, and he brought all of his presents. But it was a Coca-Cola company that was upset that nobody wanted to drink dark cola in the winter. So they took Santa Claus and used them for their purpose of selling Coca-Cola in the wintertime, and they created a new image of Santa Claus, and that's the Santa Claus you know. When you watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade and Santa comes like at the end of the show, that's because of Coca-Cola.
Yeah. No. And again, that speaks 100% to the commercialism in Christmas.
Mhm.
And how, honestly, I hate to say it, a good chunk of the holiday is that. You know, at least the modern version. Not talking about like before Coca-Cola, but just the modern version. But yeah, after these 3 horrible sequences, which I gotta say, all 3 of these, you could tell the bulk of the money went to those 3 scenes.
Oh yeah. Not only are they where all the money went, but they also just like do not fit like in a tone sense.
No.
You know, and
no.
Brian, you and I have discussed constantly like tone and how you set your story based on the tone that you're telling. And this is like, hi, welcome to this wacky Christmas party of rich Hollywood people. derpy burp. We got a bunch of silly gags and jokes. And then we cut back to these haunting, disturbing historical images. And it's just like, what tone are you trying to set here?
That's called, we had the money to shoot those things. You know, we had sets built. We had a real cinematographer for those scenes. Because there's no way in hell that that same cinematographer who filmed those scenes also did the Christmas party and the gaslighting car Bonanza. Because they're night and day. Like, they're competently shot in those three scenes. Like, there's actually like dynamic range between shadow and light. You have atmosphere. You have actual framing that's not, you know, out of focus. So like, clearly they shot those things first with all the money and shot everything else afterwards over like a weekend.
Yeah. It's the difference between film lighting and sitcom lighting.
Yes.
And that's the separation that we get between those two. But yeah, Christian decides that Kirk Cameron is the smartest man who ever lived. And that he loves Christmas so much, he's just going to like fucking nut in the eggnog. You know, and
do we want to talk about the conspiracy theorist scene before we get to that? Because that's a really good one.
Oh, yeah. As we mentioned, black man and white man. And this,
not Christian white man. This is just conspiracy theorists.
This is
guy.
just, black guy and white guy. Like, they have a scene who are just the two-party guests that we mentioned earlier, just sitting down, having a convo, and they put their mugs up over their mouths. I think it's in the movie's logic to hide the fact that they're trying to hide their conversation, but it's really just an excuse that they can then shoot the audio and post and put it in. As you can clearly hear a difference between their mugs down and mugs up audio.
Well, they in essence wanted to have the crazy conspiracy theorist guy talk really fast, and clearly he couldn't do that in one go. In one scene, like in one shot, excuse me. So like, to save time, they're like, well, we'll just record it in post, and you know, that'll be it. But yeah, I guess this scene is laughable because, and again, we're gonna get political. Sorry, guys. This scene is laughable because it's played off for jokes. Okay, it's played as a joke in 2014 when this movie came out, of this one guy having this whole bizarre, like, conspiracy theorist war on Christmas mentality, and he's spouting off talking about Fox News is telling me this, I can't say Merry Christmas, I have to say Happy Holidays, and he's bringing up Area 52 and everything else, and it's like all of this stuff that when you listen to it, you're like, that's a crazy person. That's a person with a tinfoil hat. But I have a feeling that if you watch it now, it just reads like the modern Republican Party.
Well, the weird thing is that it to me, it comes off as like a comic routine against the idea of the war on Christmas. And
it does. That's what I'm saying. It's like, making fun of it.
Yeah. Like, is that really where you guys want to go? Because I'm sure you believe that nonsense. The idea of like Starbucks having Happy Holidays cups because they're a business and they want to appeal to everybody to make money, which you conservatives love so fucking much, capitalism in its finest, you know, but you shit your ass over. But this movie seems like it's going out of its way to crap on that. And I'm like, Are you just trying to confuse me, movie?
No, what they're trying, you have to understand, John, this is before the radicalization of it. This is before the radicalization of the GOP. So like back then, when people like Mitt Romney and Jerry Falwell Sr. and Jr. were not co-opted by fascism, sorry calling it out, you know, yeah, they were uber Christian, and yes, they were conservative, but they weren't all about this whole crazy culture war stuff to the nth degree. like we see now,
Mhm.
where it was a caricature and it was a joke. It's just bizarre to watch it now and be like, this is what they all believe now. Like, I think if Kirk Cameron remade this movie, there would be more of the War on Christmas stuff. And it would be more overt, and it would be not played for laughs. It would be played for, this is legit the reality, rather than it's a joke. And that what I thought was interesting about that scene is just from a historical perspective to watch it be like, they're making fun of these people, in which, less than 10 years later, they are those people.
Yeah, because I think there's a big difference between a culture war of removing Christmas from society as compared to removing Jesus from Christmas. Yeah, and Kirk is on the, how dare you try to remove Jesus from the Christmas end of the paradigm.
So yeah, after this very bizarro scene, we get back to the end of the gaslighting car bonanza, in which Christian white man is totally filled with the spirit of baby Jesus, all in Christmassy garb. And he goes back to the house.
Yeah, because you can't have anything that's not connected to your religion, I guess, is his thinking. Because there are things about Easter that are not religious. There are things about a lot of things that aren't religious that join in. That doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice your outlooks on religion.
No.
You can still be extremely religious at Christmas or Easter or any holiday. Fuck, if you want to plant a tree for Jesus on Arbor Day, you go fucking nuts. That's your prerogative.
Yeah.
Nobody's stopping you from being religious at Christmas time. I mean, I guess the idea that anybody else having fun is such a bad fucking idea that he can't deal with, but that he has to have everything about Christmas still be about Jesus. Everything. The candy cane cookie is like Jesus's crutch after he was beaten on his way to the cross, I guess. Doesn't the movie even mention like phallic symbols or something like that, and they show a candy cane?
Oh yeah, they totally say that's those people, right? Those people who denigrate the holiday because they make it dirty. They look at candy canes
in there. Yeah. These crooked penises.
Yeah.
These peppermint cacks.
But to be fair, humanity has a tendency to take things like holidays and turn them dirty. There's a whole pornographic industry devoted to that.
Well, I mean, this entire holiday is built on, saccharine, emotional, religious, thoughtful, caring, what have you, that of course it's going to breed a cynical turn for for people.
That's natural.
That's the response. Yeah, that's the response that's going to come into that. But yeah, he comes in the house and now he wants to jizz all over all the ornaments. And
well, he doesn't do that. He slides
across the floor and crashes his face into a gift.
But it makes no sense to me why he does that. Like, of all the things you could do, you couldn't just walk in like a normal human being and just say, "Hey, I've got the Holy Spirit now in me." And it hurts. But I've got it all in me.
He went and asked first.
Yeah. But he couldn't do that. Instead, he's got to slide across the floor into the presents, bash his head on the presents, in which after he's concussed, he, has an imaginary drawing across the presents that apparently, again, this is another Kirk Cameronism
This is
that
the
he
most.
believes.
This is the most insane thing.
I-
this movie.
I can't stand it. He is making the argument that the presents under the Christmas tree, and I kid you not when I tell you this, the presents under the Christmas tree are arranged in a way to be the buildings of New Jerusalem and God's kingdom, and that the tree that's underneath over them is the tree of life. Nowhere in any text, in any belief, is that ever mentioned. That is Kirk Cameron's personal bullshit.
because that
belief.
fucktard made it up. He just made
did.
it up.
He did. But it's the most asinine thing that he tries to say. And of course he uses this. He uses this to justify the commercialism and justify the capitalist takeover of the holiday.
And the fact that his sister has 2 refrigerators.
I didn't notice that one. She has 2
Oh.
refrigerators?
When he comes up to her and he's like, "Hey, baby, I'm so sorry. I've been so distant. I just want to give it to you. I want to give it to you so fucking hard in the spirit of the baby Jesus and Santa Claus. I just want to just give it to you so hard." And she's like, "What I did you have in mind, Big Daddy?" And I'm like, is this turn into a porn? Are they gonna fuck? Are they gonna have horrible missionary sex for 2 minutes? Then Kirk Cameron's like, I'm a boner kill. You probably think they're gonna kiss now. I'm like, no, I thought they were gonna go in the closet and have horrible, 2-minute missionary on a bunch of other people's coats. No. He's like, I want to do a break dancing segment because we need to fill the runtime.
That's 100% what it is. They need to fill the runtime.
Yeah.
But in the breakdancing segment, if you're watching this movie, which you shouldn't ever watch this movie, but if you want to, the breakdancing segment, you can just skip it all. Like you could stop the movie at that point, and you're not going to miss anything. You're really not missing. There's no more. I mean, granted, there's no plot to begin with, but there's really nothing of merit to watch. Just watching the same people do awkward white people dancing for it feels like 8 minutes long.
Well, Brian, I would like to see the algorithm of people that tuned out at this point, because I feel like if you
like on YouTube, you can actually. I wonder if you could see a drop, because on YouTube's where I watched it, because it's up there for free with ads. I'm sorry, John, because I know you purchased this movie years ago.
Can I explain that real quick?
The purchasing of the movie?
My 2
Yes, please.
My 2 purchasings.
Two
my
purchasings.
2 purchasings of shame. Yeah. On YouTube. It was when we had the original Christmas party that we showed this godforsaken nightmare of a movie. I rented it for like $3 off Amazon. And for some reason, the playback was just horrendous. And
Yeah, it was all over the place. We were like, we can't laugh at this.
yeah. And we're old as fuck. So it was like that and YouTube and something else. So I bought it off YouTube because the only option was to buy it. And I'm like, well, this is what I brought everybody over for. So that is, to this day, the only thing that I've ever bought on YouTube. So for the rewatching of this, I went into my purchases on YouTube, and there it sits by itself. Kirk Cameron Saves Christmas and my purchases on YouTube. And the other one that I'm horrendously embarrassed about was I was home alone with a bottle of liquor, which is never a good sign, maybe about, 10 years ago. And I think it was when the director's cut of Batman v Superman came out, and I was like, well, maybe I'll give it a whirl and see if maybe if it any better than the toilet fire that I originally saw. And because I was so drunk when I decided to rent it, I ended up purchasing it instead of renting it. So in my Amazon purchases, one of the only things there is Batman v Superman director's cut.
Oh, Jesus.
And so yeah, two of the most horrendous fucking nightmares that you can ever imagine are the only things that I've purchased on streaming media.
What I love about that, John, is that the algorithm for you is completely fucked because of that.
Yeah.
Like you're totally only getting Jesus recommendations now from the algorithm and bad Batman movies.
Like, do you like this Kevin Sorbo movie?
Or one of the other Christian movies that Kirk Cameron's made?
Left Behind.
Oh, yeah. Or God Is Not Dead. Is that another one of his?
It's from that same production company. But
Okay.
I don't know if that's one it is. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so the hip hop dance sequence, terrible. It'll make your eyes bleed. And then we get this whole thing where they're gathering around the food. And again, just to really ram home, Kirk Cameron's bizarre take on the holiday, he makes a point to say, and I kid you not when I say this, he makes a point to say that it's okay to put yourself into debt, and it's okay to overbuy shit, and it's okay to be a glutton during the holidays because the holidays are materialistic and Jesus is a material person. So you're really honoring him by succumbing to materialism. And I just keep going, I'm like, did they all miss the whole meaning of this person completely?
Because Jesus is a material girl. Yeah, no, he's purposely missing the point. Like, he wants to have his cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, well, everything's about Jesus, but feast and do whatever you want with your finest things. It's gluttony and greed. I thought those were sins.
I'm pretty sure
Kirk?
it's in there that you're not supposed to do gluttony and greed. But yeah, like it's just like, hey, it's all about Jesus, but make sure that you're still spending your money and racking up those credit card bills and, deciding that you're gonna have to cut back on like bare essentials in January and February because you overspent on Christmas. So like it's the worst message possible to end the movie on. And this movie is ultimately like filled with terrible messages. But like that one is just like, oh, you put the turd cherry on top, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, and then they realized they only had like a 72-minute movie, so they put 8 minutes of bloopers in.
I didn't even watch the bloopers, dude. I didn't watch it. I couldn't. I had my fill of Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas. I was just like, I'm done. The minute the credits rolled, I'm like, yep, I'm done. No more. I'm done with it. And I'm glad that we're done with it. We had to talk about it. We had to, John. It's a bad Christmas movie. It's a holiday season. We wanted to talk about it. We want to talk about our Christmas movies because that's what we do. And I never want to talk about this one ever again.
All I can sum this movie up is it's so Orwellian it hurts. And I know I've mentioned this a couple of times, but the idea that we'll introduce a new truth, and that truth will forever be the truth, and no other truth could have ever existed before. And I'm horribly butchering his words. But that ideology of retracing any bit of history, especially Christmas, because I'm sorry, Christmas is not a Christian holiday. And if you're shocked by me saying that, it's never been a Christian holiday. It's been co-opted by Christians. So for any of you who say, oh, you celebrate Christmas, so you don't believe in Jesus, why are you even celebrating? Why are you celebrating? Because this isn't your holiday. You took it. And no other history shall ever be presented otherwise in the Orwellian mindset. And I feel like Kirk Cameron is trying to continue that propagandic line where, Brian, as we said at the top of the show, he's basically admitting in his own special that he's fucking lying.
Yeah.
He's making shit up because he says the old stories are kind of boring and don't fill in the gaps.
Yep.
So let's create new stories where we fucking lie and fill in the gaps. He's fucking lying. This is Orwellian to the nth degree. He is a sham artist piece of shit, and shame on him. That's my thoughts on the film. Brian, what about you?
Bravo, John. Bravo. My thoughts are that the fact that this movie made $2 million is upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
That is my thoughts. That this movie made $2 million on a $500,000 budget. That it does have people who believe this stuff is upsetting to me. Especially as someone who does celebrate Christmas, and I celebrate it again, just like you, John, with Santa Claus. I have children, so obviously I'm going to do it for them. You know, I like the family aspect. I like the friends aspect, getting together with people that maybe you don't have the time to always spend time with. That part I appreciate about the holiday season. But none of that is in this movie. And it's hollow. It is propagandizing extremism to the point that I think people who eat this stuff up, unfortunately, are coming away with an extremist attitude towards the holidays. And it, in my opinion, movies like this fuel the inability of people who are born again being able to have a reasonable conversation with people like us. I really believe that. Because, you know, if you watch Kirk Cameron Saves Christmas, and you'll come away with it thinking that there's less in common with people like me and John than there are with people like them. And if you can't find common ground, then how are you ever going to have the peace and love and togetherness that Jesus talks about if it's always a us versus them attitude? And that's what I hate about this movie. That's what really hits me to the core. That's my final thoughts on it. Fuck Kirk Cameron.
Fuck you,
Fuck him.
Kirk Cameron.
Fuck you, Kirk Cameron.
Fuck you and your stupid ass sister and your other stupid ass sister and your whole fucking doofus family.
Fuck the Cam fam.
Yeah.
Fuck them. And that's fine. I mean, obviously, yeah, you know, that's in my opinion. Just like his whole movie is filled with nothing but his bullshit opinions. But yeah, I'm glad we talked about this one. And I think we got deep on some things that I wasn't prepared for. But I'm glad we did. Yeah. I'm sure we probably lost like a good chunk of listeners, but that's fine. It's fine too.
I don't
If
think
we gained a few.
A small chunk.
You know, it's a movie called Kirk Cameron Saves Christmas. What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah.
Well, with that said, John, where can they find you at on the internets?
Over on Facebook, Instagram, X. Really called Twitter. Fuck you, Elon Musk. Go fuck yourself. And over at YouTube, by the time you're listening to this episode, I just dropped a more of a theoretical episode on how white flight after World War II brought many white Americans into the suburbs and how that changed paranormal and social horror in general. So go check that out. I literally dropped it today as we're recording. So by the time you're listening to this, it's out. So go check that out. And I promise for the remainder of the year, my stuff will be Christmassy.
Christmassy.
Mhm.
Nice. You can find me at Brian Connington on the Twitter, X, whatever. I also run the Psycho Show page. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Psycho Show. You can also head over to our Discord channel. We have a Discord channel. If you really don't like me and you really don't like John, well, that's okay. You can talk to us directly and tell us to our digital faces how we got everything wrong about Christianity and Kirk Cameron Saves Christmas on our Discord channel. Link for it's in the description. You can also come over and check out our TikToks. As I said, we're doing more video stuff, so some of the clips from today's episode will be up on the TikToks, which is awesome, at Cinema Psycho Show. And be sure to follow us on any podcast platform that you listen to, or you can head over to cinemapsychoshow.com/follow. And as we're doing more YouTube stuff, which is cool, be sure to hit the subscribe and the bell and the notifications on
All
the
the
YouTube
things.
stuff, all the things on our YouTube channel. Seriously, I'm trying to build this stuff up too, because video is the future apparently. And with that said, follow us everywhere, and we will see you next time.
The Christmas war is not meant to be won or lost. The Christmas war is meant to be continuous.